Bucknutters, welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Wednesday, October 10th, 2018. I am Dave Biddle, very happy to be joined by the People's Champ, Matt Baxendell. Bax, I want to start off talking about the Urban Meyer health situation. It's like everybody I know is asking me about it, so I know it's the number one topic right now in Buckeye Nation, so I do want to address it. Obviously, he had the cyst surgery in 2014. Here we are 4 years later, and it sounds like he's having similar issues. I've noticed him. We all know what happened in the Indiana game where he had to actually go down on a knee because the headaches were so bad. It was initially reported by Bruce Feldman that he collided with someone. That's been debunked. And I don't think Bruce Feldman was making that up for the listeners out there wondering. I'm sure somebody on Ohio State's sideline told him that, and then he relayed that to the audience. But Urban did not collide with anybody. The pain was just so bad it actually took him to a knee. And I've noticed backs at press conferences this year several times, Urban kind of holding the side of his head, touching the side of his head and wincing. Again, this is, so hard to talk about another man's medical issues. We're not doctors. We don't even play one on the Bucknuts Morning 5. But I guess the question is, Bax, are you worried about this, and how worried are you?
Dr. Biddle, we need to make a recommendation here in the patient's case, apparently. You hit it on the head. We don't know what's going on with Urban. It's all this and that. And let's face it, there's no coach in college football whose health history is going to have more scrutiny than Urban F. Meyer because of how his Florida tenure ended, right? And I'll be very honest. If we're going to play the real politic game with it here, a lot of people are worried about Urban's health because they see a very capable replacement in Ryan Day on staff and are thinking, well, if Urban's health long-term is a problem and he needs to retire, then we need to make sure he does it so that we get to keep Ryan Day. I can tell you that people have already brought that up with me. Not one, not two, but about a half dozen people because everybody's asking me that. Now, that said, we don't know. Because a man has a headache, that he doesn't mean he's not going to continue to be one of the greatest coaches in college football for the next 10 years. I mean, that's the truth. And we know Urban had the cyst, that he's had that issue for 15 years. And as someone who lost his father to brain cancer, I can tell you things in your brain are a scary thing. Don't get me wrong. But Urban's been operating at a very proper level as a coach for a very long time. And I think everybody is concerned about the medical thing that we saw from the whole the report that they did with him where he's taking medicine and he forgets stuff. I think everybody needs to take a chill pill here, and if something's actually wrong with Urban, let the doctors tell us. Let Urban tell us. It's not our effing business, to be blunt.
Well said. That's all I wanted to talk about. I wanted to address it, but I don't want to have a whole show about it. Let's talk about some real football here. Greg Schiano's defense, it's a little surreal when I hear people complain that Ohio State's too aggressive. I know we want, everybody wants the defense just to not give up big plays. I get that, but I remember very clearly during the Jim Haycock years, as great as Jim Haycock was, Buckeye fans would complain all the time, why are we not doing more man press? Why are we in this soft zone? Why so much cover 2 and cover 3? Why not play man press? We're Ohio State. We got these athletes. Let's just play man press the whole game. Well, now Buckeye fans got their wish, those that wanted that. That's what Schiano does. He didn't mess around. He's like, man press the entire game. I'm bringing the noise. I would like to see him mix it up a little bit more. I get that, but I did want to point out it is funny to me that Buckeye fans used to say, we're not aggressive enough defensively. Now Buckeye fans are saying we're too aggressive, and I buy into that. I think Ohio State is a little too aggressive. It needs to mix it up. But, overall I like Schiano's scheme. I just think they got to find a way to clean up these big plays.
Agree with you completely, Dave. Remember during the Jim Haycock era where everybody would panic? They were like, oh, my God, why are we only rushing 3? Why are we only rushing 3? Why are we only rushing 3? And, now we're all like, oh, my God, we're too aggressive. The linebackers are on the line of scrimmage. I'm guilty of that.
Yeah, I think every Buckeye fan is because you see, people have said this is a pro scheme. What's he doing out there? And I get that. I mean, Ohio State right now is ranked 56th in the country in total defense, 9th in the Big Ten. That's unacceptable. I do think they're going to get better, though, and they're going to gel. They're a very young group. They're a very inexperienced group. They're without the best player in college football, in Nick Bosa. Maybe I'm just being, maybe this is just fool's gold that I'm buying into here. But I just feel like this group's going to figure it out before the end of the year.
You have to think they will, Dave. I mean, really, you have to think they will. Here's the thing. I don't think this is a talent problem we're talking about with this team. The real question I have is why, again, we talked about the linebackers lining up with the line of scrimmage, maybe being overly aggressive. We've been complaining about corners getting burned, oh, my gosh, they're being so aggressive and playing man press. And it's just one of these things where damned if you do, damned if you don't if you're Greg Schiano. It's one of the things where, if you go for 2 and you get it, wow, what a great decision. But if you miss it, wow, what a stupid decision, right? It's all based on the outcome, and right now we're all probably overanalyzing this because we're so concerned about the actual results that we're getting on defense. And to be real blunt about it, if the cornerbacks had turned their head around at a couple different plays, if the linebackers had missed a couple tackles in the hole, or if Nick Bosa was still healthy, maybe we're not having these conversations. Maybe we're simply sitting here going, well, Greg Schiano is a great defensive coordinator. While Tennessee was stupid to turn him down for the head coaching role, hey, you know what? We're lucky to have him here this year, and wow, that Alex Grinch is really doing a good job as a new coach. Instead, we're saying all the other things because we have 6 games of young players on the field, and we're reacting. I think the one thing that we have really any cause to bring up with any concern would be the play of the linebackers, because these are players that everybody in the country wanted, and this is a position group for 2 years now that we feel like has underachieved. Last year with veterans, this year with young players. You want to be concerned about Bill Davis? Hey, fine, we can have that discussion because of the discussion around his hiring of did Urban hire him because he was his friend, or did Urban hire him because he was the right guy for the job? We can have that discussion. But from what we've seen on the field so far this year, I think we just have to kind of say, let this play out. Let's see a little more from these guys. You don't have to be championship caliber yet. You just have to get there by the end of November. And if this defense, I will say this, the second half against Indiana showed me a lot of things that make me feel a little more comfortable about the future of this defense. They gave up less than 100 yards of offense. They gave up only 6 points. They played well in the trenches. The linebackers weren't all of a sudden lined up on linemen. They were allowed to read and react a little bit more. If that continues the next couple games and Ohio State starts giving up, 7, 10 points a game, none of us are going to be complaining. But if they keep giving up big plays, then we're going to be over-analyzing this left and right, and it's not going to stop because this isn't the silver bullet so far. But here's the other thing to remember. Ohio State is still 6-0. And that defense saved Ohio State's bacon in the first half against Penn State. There's no arguing that.
The offensive line continues to be a concern. There was not one offensive lineman that graded out as a champion against Indiana. And sometimes I think that they're pretty, I don't want to say they're easy graders. That doesn't seem like an Urban Meyer thing. But sometimes we'll look at the Pro Football Focus grades, and, one guy won't grade out very well, but he was somehow a champion for Ohio State. Well, not this week last week against Indiana. Nobody was a champion, and that was against Indiana's defensive line. I'm concerned about this offensive line. I don't think they suck, but I don't think they're that good. I think that it's like an average offensive line. What are your thoughts?
Well, there's two things. First of all, Indiana's in the game. I put this at the top of the bucket last week. Take a lot of that game with a grain of salt. And the fact that Dwayne Haskins is amazing and Ohio State has way better athletes than Indiana. Because it felt like the whole team was kind of running in sand a little bit here and there over the course of the first half. You could tell they were a young team that just had a big night game win on the road the week before. Probably let it get to them a little bit in their heads before they turned it on in the second half and looked a little bit better. But, and here's the other thing I think that hurts this O-line, is that Ohio State hasn't figured out what the hell it's doing on short yardage plays right now. They keep wanting to run this zone read that doesn't work. Quarterback is not a threat to run. And they also will not, for whatever reason, put personnel on the field that assists them in third and short. You and I have been screaming about this since last year when we were all talking about who's in charge of the running back rotation. Dave, why isn't Mike Weber on the field for 3rd and 1? He is a more powerful back than J.K. Dobbins. I don't know what's the tempo, but J.K. Dobbins repeatedly has had trouble getting that 1 yard. And that O-line, if Mike Weber's on there and gets enough of a push to get that extra 1 yard 3 or 4 different times this year, maybe we all don't go, oh, well, this O-line, we're worried about the running game. We go, oh, it's fine, look at all the points we're putting up. I mean, and that may be the difference there is a little bit of the scheme. Instead of running a read, just give it to the guy and let him attack the line. Or let's push it outside a little bit more. Or if you're dead set on running up the middle, give it to Weber. He's a more powerful lower guy. I mean, am I wrong on that? Like, what do you think about this running back rotation? Because it seems like it's the second straight year of not looking at the situation whatsoever.
And I'd like to see some of the other guys at least get some touches just in case they're needed. Like Mike Weber's banged up. We saw him last night after practice. He was limping back to the locker room. That's nothing new. He's been nursing that ankle injury all year. I'd like to see Demario McCall just get a couple of touches in case he's needed. I'd like to see Master Teague get a couple of touches, even in big games. Not don't lean on him. But, yeah, Mike Weber needs to be the short yardage guy, and I'm also not buying that you can't run quarterback sneaks because you're never under center. They did it in the national championship game against Oregon. That is the biggest game of Urban. Well, the Alabama game is really the biggest game of Urban Meyer's career. That was the true national championship game. But if you can do it in the national championship game against Oregon, and by the way, they scored a touchdown on the play, you damn well can do it against Indiana in the regular season. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And not just did Cardale score it, the excuse of we don't take the snap from under center does not apply one bit, because you know when else they take a snap from under center? The victory formation.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, exactly. The most important snap of the game, because it ends the game. And some teams do that. Some teams will literally snap it back for a victory. OSU doesn't do that. So you're telling me that they snap under center and have Dwayne lean his big ass forward for a yard? I mean, come on. That is an excuse because the coach is being hard head. It's not a practical excuse. It's just an excuse. And let's be honest here, too. Cardale doing it in the national title game was a surprise because, A, we didn't do it very much. And they didn't have Cardale in until the 2 games before that at all. You weren't going to do it with JT because he's a different type of player than Cardale. When you have one of these big guys who can lean forward with some power like Haskins, who, by the way, has a little shimmy as Cardale and doesn't have the over mentality that Cardale did. Remember what Cardale did to Landon Collins from Alabama when he knocked him out with a hit? You're not going to see that from Haskins. But Haskins is big enough that you tell me that everybody can't just push forward and get a yard and have the running back run up behind him and push him? I mean, to me, that seems like an excuse at best. And it's one, I bet you, if you and I had an honest opinion from the coaching staff, they're probably waiting to do it until a game like Michigan, and they're going to say, oh, we don't do that, and then they're going to have him stand around on the line of scrimmage pretending like he's barking out some audible, and then he'll just go right to the center and sneak it before they see what's happening. To me, that's what it looks like they're doing. It's what they did against Oregon, but it's an excuse at best. And you know what? If they're going to save it strategically at this point, they want to have a masquerade go over it, fine, do it. But an excuse to say that they can't do it because they don't practice snaps under center, that's the most basic play for any quarterback who's ever played the game of football.
Great wisdom, as always, from the People's Champ, Matt Baxendell. Thank you, Bax. You can catch his column every Sunday on Bucknuts. It is the bucket. It is must-read material. Thank you again, Matt Baxendell, and thank you to all listeners out there for tuning in to the show. I appreciate it. Hope you have a great day. Let's hear that Buckeye swag, best damn band in the land.